Greetings guys, I'm DJ Red here. I wanted to make a tutorial for you guys on how to make guns and give you guys a few tips on how to make other assets or just overall tips and tricks that will help you modeling pretty much anything. So let's get started. I'm going to divide this tutorial series into 5 parts. In this part 1, I will be covering most of the basic shortcuts in Blender, and next part 2 to part 4, part 5, I will actually make the gun. So this is just an overall quick into welcoming to Blender 2.79. Now, I know I use Blender 2.79 instead of 2.8, but it's because I've been using Blender for 2 years and I'm very used to Blender 2.79 at the moment. I do, however, have 2.8, but I mostly use that for realistic renders, GFX, and overall experiments. And I use this Blender mostly for guns and assets and really 3D models I want to import. So yeah, let's get started. So the first thing you probably want to do is to create something. So by creating anything is Shift A. Shift A is your shortcut for creating, for example, meshes like a plane, a cube, a circle, a sphere, a cylinder, a cone, a torus, a monkey. For some reason, I do have a few add-ons installed so I can get a few mechanical meshes as well. You can create curves, which with curves you can create something like a worm, or you can create very weird things with curves. Surface, I don't really use this at all. You can create text. You can rig your guns or your characters, cameras, lighting, force fields for particle simulations, and more physical things. I don't really pay much attention to these things right here. Mostly, this is my I use this one the most. So let's start by creating a cube. So you now created a cube. As you can see, by using the middle mouse button, you can look around by holding it. By right click, you select objects, and by pressing Z or Z, you can go into wireframe mode. Now this mode is pretty much a this eliminates faces on your model, so you can now see through your model. It only exposes vertices and edges. Now, what is a vertice and what is an edge and what is a face? Now, well, this is a vertice. A vertice is a single point in your model, and it is just, in this case, you have 8 vertices. A vertice is what defines the overall shape of your model. If there are no vertices, there is no model. Pretty much all video game engines use vertices to calculate collisions and all that kind of stuff. Now, an edge is this. This is an edge. Probably the name edge is just it's an edge. These things are the connection between multiple vertices. A face is pretty much this is a face, and faces are usually connections connected by 4 vertices. It can be connected by 5, but I think 3 or 4 vertices are probably the best to go, since it will not generate any problems during exporting. Well, edit mode. What I did was going to edit mode. Edit mode is the mode where you pretty much do everything to your model. You make it longer, you put extra things on it, all that kind of stuff. That is where edit mode comes in. Edit mode, you can activate edit mode by pressing tab, and then you can select any of your pretty much any part of your model. Now you can select faces and edges by means of these buttons right here. This is a vertice, edge, face. These buttons are very important to remember. This is what is going to you're going to use this a lot. So vertice, edge, face. So edit mode is where you probably going to spend most of your time to edit your model to fit whatever you want to do with it. We also have sculpt mode. However, sculpting is a little bit more is hard. I've tried it many times, and for sculpting, you need to you're going to need more than just 8 faces right here, or 6 faces in this case. So what you need to do to sculpt is press W, subdivide, and right here you need to add more cuts. Now, why is that? Because a sculpting tool uses uh, usually uses faces or vertices to make to sculpt with it. So you need a lot of faces and vertices to sculpt. At least you need more than just 6. Otherwise, I mean, you can sculpt with it, but it's only going to rotate your faces, not going to do anything special to it. That's why you need more faces and vertices. Now, the next thing is weight paint. This is something that's mostly used for rigging, for bones, for creating characters to assign certain weights to bones. So, like for example, so that a bone doesn't completely move an arm, but only moves a part of it. Texture paint. Texture paint is something also a little bit more difficult. I'm probably going to explain that further into the future, but not right now because this is a modeling tutorial. So this is solid mode. It is pretty much you're just looking at raw footage of your model. You're just looking at it from a blank perspective. If you want to look at it, how it looks with lighting and all the effects applied to it, you need to click rendered. But in this case, we don't have a lamp, so it doesn't generate any light. I usually click ambient occlusion for this. So now you can see our model when it's pretty much done with lighting applied to it. But this is also something for texturing. So let's go back to solid. Now let's go over pretty much basic keys. So right now you have 3 axes. You have Y, X, and Z and Z. Now I know that Blender has a kind of weird way of with the axis because pretty much all programs use Y as their up and down, but Blender uses Z as their up and down. So that's something to keep in mind. Now to move by a certain axis, you can just click the arrows, which are right here. This is rotate, scale, move. Sorry guys. Move. And or you could just press G and then for example X or GY or GZ Z in this case. Next thing is S, which stands for scale, and I don't know why it's not doing anything. Ah, there we go. So S is for scaling. You can scale your model up and down. If you go into edit mode, you can select a single face and you press S. You can also scale up that face. So all the things I'm now explaining to you in object mode also work in edit mode. Next thing we can do is talk about the W. So W is specials. Specials is pretty important when you're actually modeling. Subdivide, what I showed you a few minutes ago, is like this. You create more vertices in your model, but be careful because it also generates a lot more lag in your renders, and it takes up more power. The more vertices you have, the more power it asks from your computer. So W. Subdivide smooth is a way to make it look like it's smooth, because flat shows you all individual vertices like this. If I press smooth, it generates a smoother image, but it also starts to look really weird, like puddingly a little bit. It just looks like cloth right now. So shading, flat, smooth, these are important when you're modeling. But we're going to go over that in the next tutorial, next few parts. So let's go back to edit mode, W, remove doubles. If you applied certain modifiers to it, which is a modifier is right here, this little wrench here. A modifier basically gives you certain properties. Now, if I go over all over, if I go all over them all, I'm probably going to be busy for about an hour explaining all of them because they all have their individual properties and functions. But let's just take array for example. Array is kind of what I would call a chain. If I it basically mirrors your model in on one axis. Like for example, I now can generate 15 of my own little weird cube right here, of in this case 5. And if I click apply, I now have 5 cubes all in one model. They all look the same. But if I were you, I'd just experiment with modifiers a little bit when you start out. So let's go back to W. Flip normals is there are a lot. I think specials is really a lot that I need to explain in the upcoming tutorials because there's just overall a lot to explain here. But hopefully this will help you on your further way to Blender. Remember, G to move, S to scale, G and Y, X or Z, Z to move up, down, left, right, forwards, backwards, and Shift A to create a model. And then last thing, Tab to edit into edit mode, and then press Z to go into wireframe. Let's explain one more thing to end this part, which is reference images. Right now, as you can see, I have an image loaded in my background. This is done by pressing N, scroll down until you see background images. Then click Add Image, and then click Open Desktop, and now you can open any image you want that you have on your desktop and load it in as a reference image. Now, chances high that you're only going to see this once you load it up. That's because you need to press 1 and then 5. Right now I already have pressed 5, so I don't need to do it again. But normally you would have to press 1 or 3 or 7 and then 5, because 1 is side view, 3 is front view, and 7 is top view. So right now, for example, top, front, side view, front view. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give a like if you enjoyed it, and see you next few tutorial parts.